Gamer Nation! Today's video is brought to you by Ultraviolet. The Blood War is on, and thanks to the PG-13 rated theatrical cut, almost 10 minutes shorter. Ultraviolet, I got shit to do!
Yeah, now once we find that hidden treasure, I think we split it 60-30 with the drunk over here. What are you gonna do, hit me? Oh, fuck!
Ah, shit, my little hat! You're gonna buy me a new one!
How about I buy you one of these? Ow, my nose and mouth! Karate!
Oh, Henry, there's sharks in the water.
Those are dolphins.
And why did you throw bait?
Why are we watching this?
Well, the fright factor meter on it said I'd be getting goosebumps, and I'm interested to see if they make good on that promise. I'd like to feel something today. I think I'm open to emotions again, for now.
This seems like the kind of thing Elvira would watch.
What, black and white?
No, more like bad. Also, it's not black and white.
Oh yeah. It's kinda got the color palette of a rotisserie chicken. The back of the box says there are snakes that can swallow a man whole? I'd like to see that.
Are they in the movie?
What do you mean?
Well, it says they can do that, but do they do that?
Oh, I'm sure. If there are snakes in this thing, someone's getting eaten by one.
So, Serpent Island must be teeming with snakes. How dreadful.
Actually, there are no snakes.
Really?
Yep.
Told you.
The locals cooked it up to scare off pirates.
You gotta let them cook. It's all part of the mystery.
No, more so than snakes, what you'll find are dozens and dozens of quirky gift shops selling novelty figurines and shot glasses.
You ever see a long t-shirt with an airbrushed bikini on it?
It's all part of the mystery.
Let's go!
Next Life is a third-person point-and-click sci-fi psycho-thriller game and filling my pockets with sticks and rocks just-in-case simulator developed by Czechia studio Future Games and published by Dreamcatcher Interactive for PC in the year 2007. Future Games was founded in 1996 by Martin Malik, following his frustrations trying to get a script he wrote produced as a game. After yanking control of Destiny's wheel, Malik immediately drove head-on into the point-and-click adventure racket, producing a Czechia-only title with the help of 3 gamers operating under the name Unknown Identity, called Posal Buhu, or Messenger of the Gods. This rather traditional historic adventure game didn't exactly break new ground or travel too far from home, but it did introduce Malik to a competent dev team that eventually dropped their own name and joined Future. In 2003, they would release the first title developed under that banner, a gothic psychological mystery called The Black Mirror, which was followed up 2 years later by Nibiru, Age of Secrets, returning to and reimagining the theme of Nazi conspiracy and archaeological wonders that kicked the studio off. Neither of these games pierced beyond the veil of adventure gamer circles into the mainstream, but they were released internationally in several languages and sold enough to keep the studio afloat. They also made future games synonymous among these types with fingering the cracks of the dam, upholding a genre that was rapidly crumbling into obscurity at the time, giving renewed hope that somebody out there wants to make spooky little stress-free mystery games that you could play in a dimly lit room, occasionally sipping a warm beverage of your choosing. And please don't make me regret giving you the power of choice. I swear to God, if you choose piss, I'm gonna be so mad. Well, eventually that became their association. For a while, they were still, for no good reason, referring to Future Games staff and the Unknown Identity boys as different entities, which led to various publications assuming the game's developer was called Unknown Identity, an entity which did not legally exist, yet was on the packaging. Future Games was getting calls asking to talk to Unknown Identity, which were just 3 guys working at Future Games. Despite taking part in numerous interviews and press cycles for each of their releases, there isn't a whole lot of information out there about Future Games, and many of these interviews are full of either bland boilerplate responses or dismissive joke answers. A 2009 interview with the French website Planet Adventure exemplifies both of these styles. In response to being asked what inspires the horror in their games, Malik responds, "When I look at a game's budget, I'm horrified. It's then easy to transfer that feeling to the game scenario." He was quite upfront about existing in a space that was yearly inching them out of sustainability, often finding difficulty getting their games translated and published for other regions. I'd imagine doubly so for a game like Next Life, which includes multiple characters with spoken dialogue and different nationalities and accents. The game's announcement came at the height of Future Games' favorability, and when their headcount was at its largest with about 20 on staff. And perhaps this encouraged them to divide their efforts between Next Life and a lighthearted King's Quest-like project called Tale of a Hero that never found publishing outside of Czechia, Slovakia, Germany, and Russia. Tragically, within that French interview, the subject of their impending demise is brought up. This was conducted a year before the release of their final game, 2010's Alter Ego. Malik sort of reneges on a previous statement that if this one didn't sell well enough, they'd just shutter Future Games, and amends that to say that they would likely continue to make games, just not adventure games, alluding to a Nintendo DS title in production and a port of Alter Ego for the Nintendo Wii, neither of which ever materialized. Oh, you know I would have picked up a greasy secondhand copy of that at a thrift store, or a waterlogged one at a swap meet, a circumstance not dissimilar to how I first crossed paths with Next Life, not knowing it was the first day of the rest of mine. Next Life, or Reprobates in its native land, or Reprobates Isle of the Damned in Germany, or Reprobates at Death's Door in France, or simply Damned in Poland, was an interesting entry in the studio's gameography because it showed genuine interest in experimenting with the adventure game genre, despite Future Games collecting an audience that would and did resist that, losing many of their defenders in the process, causing them to readjust parameters for their next game, one that served as the make-or-break moment that just happened to break instead of make. Next Life was released to average to poor reviews, even from the types of publications that served as their target audience. The cruelest review came from a 2008 issue of PC Gamer, which, just for the sake of slotting it in a time and place, was split on the page with a notification about the class action lawsuit against Rockstar for Grand Theft Auto San Andreas' hot coffee controversy. Did you willingly modify your game to depict blocky cartoon characters rubbing jeans together, and now you've become a porn-addicted psycho killer? You may be eligible for a substantial restitution of $5 to $35, provided you submit adequate proof of purchase, fill out a few forms, and you pay your own attorney fee. Anyway, this brief and brutal review complements the premise, noting its similarity to the TV series Lost, but spends the rest of the 2 paragraphs slamming its abundance of adventure game sins, stale gameplay, and baffling dialogue, writing, "Playing Next Life becomes so depressingly bleak and dull that its underlying mystery is the only reason you'll even contemplate finishing the game, but it's not enough. Your current life is too short to waste time on this next one." Incorporating the title into takedowns would become something of a running theme, with IGN's headline reading, "Next Life, but there are good games in this one, so why bother?" Very, very funny. The website Just Adventure, unsurprisingly, had the most anomalously glowing write-up, awarding Next Life an A-, cautiously broaching its similarities to Lost and treatment of the women in its ensemble cast, in between expressions of joy for just about every other aspect. I have to give this game high marks. It ran flawlessly on my system, kept me hooked to the very end, was visually stunning at times, and contained enough variety to keep the gameplay from getting stale, which itself is a little telling, Hey, it ran pretty good, never crashed, and it looks like it was a lot of fun to make. At the time of writing, Next Life is abandonware, adrift somewhere in the internet's great junk island. But when I first started making videos, I had a sort of short list of games I wanted to cover, and Next Life was pretty high on that list for reasons that may become clear, if the fact that it was often compared to Lost wasn't a spoiler in itself. But like a lot of games that drove me to content, it was simply an outlier, an outcast, a discarded volume, trampled over and kicked under shelving that gave me a lot to think about and nobody to relay that to. I had never held a conversation with another human, full stop, let alone in the wild about a game like Next Life. Hey, did you play Next Life? I don't know what that is. It's a computer game. What, like on Xbox? No, on computer. Oh, right. Well, I'm not really allowed to play games on the computer anymore. Why not? There was an incident. What happened? Look, navigating one's adolescence is complicated. I understand, man. Thanks, yeah. I appreciate your friendship. Yeah, so... Which one of us is talking right now? I don't know, we sound the same. Perhaps we are one. Perhaps we have always been. Next life, a phrase that I've already drained of meaning in my head. It's already just a weird gibberish collection of sounds. Next life opens with a bohemian 20-something named Adam Reichel getting in his car and throwing on some jungle for a drive over to his girlfriend's house, who is never named or mentioned. I only know that's where he was going and who he was talking to because of an interview with Martin Malik. But functionally, for how much it does not come up in the game, he does not have a girlfriend. Everyone on the same page? Great! Now, following his explosive car wreck, he does not wake up in a plane of fire and suffering, nor one of clouds and winged putty, but in a metal shack with nothing but a toilet, shower, and bed. And most alarming, no windows or doors. Of course, there's always my way. Peeking inside is a strange woman who says nothing before scampering off and being slapped on the behind by a German man. The first words out of the first character introduced other than Adam brilliantly display the game's subtlety and ability to seed hints of its mystery. It's giving you a lot of information in a very neutral, organic way.
I call that luck to survive a fall from 5 kilometers. And I was just listening to the radio that Nixon is in big trouble because of Watergate. Before my motor collapsed.
Yeah, these are all normal things you'd tell a stranger you just met in a shack you don't know how you both got to. I do find it interesting that the event they used to communicate that this German man is from a different place in time is some kind of fucked up thing an American president was doing, which is accurate in how we sort of dominate the news cycle of many nations by doing super cool stuff. Oh, and if you were wondering if he knew that woman whose ass he just slapped, no. I think that dialogue implied that he too just got there after thinking he was about to die. Mystery upon mystery, horror upon horror. What a way to greet the player, you know? Outside, we find ourselves on a tropical island with several other similar shacks strewn about, each housing various strangers from different places on Earth and different places in time, all having a similar story of near death before waking up on the island. Speaking outside with Herman, the German, further confirms that's not anything. Confirms that he is indeed from some time in the 1970s. When Adam mentions he's from Prague, he recoils, calling it part of the Eastern Bloc. Edwin, a Scottish yachtsman, was shipwrecked and has no idea where they would be geographically because there does not appear to be any stars in the sky. In retrospect, in saying that out loud, I don't think they ever addressed that, but you'll soon realize why I don't care. Or maybe you will, I don't know. It's all part of the mystery. Mysteries are fun. Dorothy is the first American and is an amazing specimen of an American. It's a big is that us? Is that what we sound like? kind of moment.
My name's Dorothy, and I come from the Big Apple.
You mean New York?
Got it, chap.
I guess we do say some of those words, but there's a certain self-destructive stoicism and unearned confidence that they don't quite capture. Dorothy mentions that she's worried about losing her job at the World Trade Center, recalling a fire. But that's one of those things where you're really gonna have to be a bit more specific. You forget that place was on fire more than once. Boris is a Soviet-era Russian that's just trying to find various things to smoke and assumes, because Adam is from Prague, that they're on the same team, only for him to be like, yeah, about that, things did not go away, comrade. But tell me this, how do you feel about American sit-down Pizza Hut? You'd give everything for it, wouldn't you? So at this point, I think every character, including Adam, is in a state of denial, not fully buying that everyone is not from their own time, and each just sort of thinks every other character but themselves is crazy.
Jesus Christ, Brezhnev? How many years ago was he in charge? A silly Russian guy, what was he saying?
The carvings left in Adam's shack imply that it was once home to people from well beyond his own time and before 2007, ignorant to the underappreciated pleasures of the remake of The Hitcher starring Sean Bean. Movies, everyone, let's rap for a second. Fuck this video. Movies used to be... This interplay between various fish out of various waters is truly the strongest, most endearing thing about Next Life. It's simply great fodder for creative writing. Does it remain amusing all the way through? Look, a mystery box narrative has no obligation to answer such things. Boris has no interest in helping Adam investigate the mysterious bell tower looming at the top of the cliffs, seeing it as likely belonging to a church, making it capitalist leftovers that should be demolished, and he returns to inserting various weeds into his mouth, hoping to find the right ones. And I know what you're thinking, but they made this guy the main character? Alright, I mean... it's your thing. Other characters are equally unhelpful, such as the Japanese woman Yukiko, who is perhaps selectively mute and doesn't respond to Adam. Luckily, he's got enough empathy and grace to gently inquire further about her nonverbal state.
Is the girl dumb or does she just not understand?
Dorothy explains that they just gave her that name, and that she used to be in love with an Australian person who previously occupied Adam's shack, but he disappeared as soon as we appeared, which is likely why she was hovering in the doorway when we woke up. An older Bosnian woman named Danica is racked by nightmares and inconsolably depressed. However, she does share with us an interesting detail about the bell tower. At some point every day it rings out 3 times, and following that everyone on the island falls asleep only to wake up in their respective shacks. Ismail is an eerily devout Christian from a time and place unknown, who can only provide answers in creepy biblical lingo, claiming that they are all in some form of purgatory, where their actions on the island will decide where their soul is ushered off to, evidenced by a series of scorch marks near the beach. This comparatively brief interaction plays into various themes and ideas that Next Life wants to wade into, and the game is only called Next Life in the US and Canada, and everywhere else it's reprobates, which is a much more loaded religious term meaning an unrepentant sinner or someone for whom God's offer of salvation was withdrawn, echoing Ismail's read of their circumstances as being stuck in a divine testing grounds. Even though I prefer the title Next Life for its vagueness, you can still see remnants of these religious overtones on the packaging for the US version. It has a little flap that opens up with a stone angel and the tagline of sorts, "From your last breath of life to the first sign of heaven's light, unlock the secrets of your next life." Kinda gets cut off there. Oh, that's a separate project that I'm working on. It's just a little project I got, and I got lots of projects that I work. So the religious angle is part of it. It's simply the first actual explanation anyone has offered you other than denial or fantasy. You know, the word of a guy whose life is dictated by both. The television show Lost, which shares some similarities, had a similar relationship with the concept of purgatory, in that it was brought up as a sort of thematic pairing to the emotional and spiritual arcs of the characters. However, it did not exist within a literal purgatory. The same cannot be said for the cast of the show if the sheer number of DUIs between them is taken into account. But the audience had largely made up their minds, leading the writers to think, so do we do a purgatory thing? Everyone seems to think that's what we're doing. Are they just telling us what they want? The other thing our talk with Ismail highlights is the wonderfully butchered translation and voice work. Like, almost nothing about it is working for the English version at least. Characters speak in grammatically awkward dialogue using alien syntax and turns of phrase that require a moment to rearrange in your head.
It seems like this person's best years are over.
The subtitles often differ from what is spoken out loud, comedically including profanity that is spoken with goofy replacement words.
Stop messing me about.
Why? Who else has?
Everybody.
It is now raining, and another stranger has appeared, an Italian sex worker named Maria. She's not convinced that she hasn't been dragged into an elaborate televised prank, and either way appreciates the comped travel expenses. This is one of those games where, should you get lost or stuck, it wouldn't hurt just bouncing between the cast of characters and seeing if they have anything new to say. The devs seem to be aware of this formula, and thankfully made some attempt to give an illusion of routine for each of the lost souls. You'll catch them running off to the beach or visiting a different shack, and you can, day by day, sense their mental health declining, with more and more of them being plagued by nightmares after their second day. With help from Herman, Adam is able to trek up the cliffside and come face to face with the mysterious bell tower and its very much locked door, which stands no chance against the might of the humble stick. I was thinking about how to phrase the story beat that happens next, but it's really hard without providing context for the moon logic puzzle that allows for it. So inside the bell tower is nothing but a rock tied to a string tied to the bell. But Adam swears there is something under this dried bush in the corner, deciding the only way to bypass that frail, brittle bramble would be burning it. And since all of the surrounding flammable plants have been made wet by the combined pissing of all heaven's angels, he needs to find something that can burn. Remembering that Boris has been collecting grass to smoke, we ask our friendly, toilet-bound communist, who agrees to let Adam have some grass, if in return Adam can retrieve some extra smokable-looking leaves on a precarious, rain-slick cliffside with no footholds in which to access. Not perturbed by how convoluted this has already become, Adam agrees to the arrangement and decides the best way to reach the leaves is to rappel down to them using Maria's stockings. She's generously willing to let you have them, but first, there is the matter of Ismail blocking the entrance to her shack with their incessant praying, attempting to purify the place of the fallen woman. And of all the scenarios that would lead to a title drop, I would have never guessed it would be pleading with a man to stop praying so I can take a woman's stockings and use them to reach a handful of leaves for a time-traveling communist.
You're a reprobate. You're all reprobates.
Without many more options, Adam performs an act of violence that feels good in the moment, but seems unwarranted given that it was in pursuit of nylon hosiery. With hose in hands, Adam hangs from the cliffside and swipes a handful of leaves for Boris. On the way back down, we spy Danica walking over to the edge of the cliff. I don't think it's mentioned prior to this exchange, but after being asked if anyone has tried to escape the island, Danica tells us about a Hungarian man who built a raft out of bottles and twigs and made it a decent ways to a second island in the distance before he drifted back face down in the water and disappeared with the chiming of the bell tower. Cool, thanks for the information. I guess I'll let you get back to whatever you were doing there. Yeah. Well, After making the leaves for grass exchange with Boris, we light up that small, impenetrable bush in the bell tower, revealing a loose stone, not loose enough to be turned over by a stick, mind you, expressed with a series of oddly phrased and frankly unhelpful remarks from Adam.
They don't fit. I can't get out.
Oop, no time for that, the bell is ringing. In all the interviews with the game's creators that I could find, there is a noteworthy lack of the keyword lost. But in a way it makes sense. Making this game in the late aughts at the height of the show's popularity, and the same time as its own video game was released, leaves little doubt, in my mind, as to where its ideas are coming from. Everyone gets that, so why bring it up?
There's some plane debris through the jungle. That'll lead you to the cock.
You might want to try the cock.
I'd imagine even being an outsider to the show, knowing what most uninitiated know, that a bunch of people wind up on an island and mystery things happen, and that I think they're all dead in the ending or something. I don't like it for some reason, someone told me sometime. Never watched it though, and never will. You know. Yet they're probably doing a Lost thing that extends beyond a large cast of characters being on an island. Some of these echoes are more discernible than others, such as a mistreated East Asian woman who may be playing up a language barrier even though she's catching more of the English conversation than you think, a person guided by religious faith, a bald survivalist type familiar with hunting and foraging that is eager to prove their worth.
John, you can't!
Don't tell me what I can't do.
I know well what I can and what I can't.
A blonde woman who would rather imagine themselves on a tropical resort beach than acknowledge they are abandoned on a fucked up mystery island, unstuck from time and place. A Soviet who is more emotionally stuck in the past compared to Boris being actually from the past. One of the first mysteries concerns a building that has no place on a deserted island, which could have some parallel to the radio tower found in Lost. Just some kind of sign of civilization in a place without one. Some of these similarities will surface later, and don't worry, I will find any reason to bring the show up again. But it can get quite granular. I mean, even the title screen is designed to look like a command prompt with the little blinking cursor, which mirrors a significant vintage PC at the heart of the show's second season. I don't point these similarities out to condemn or cry thievery at the developers, only to assure you that I have watched that television show and I understand how thrilling it is to steal things.
Because there's a chance we could find the cock.
If you're thinking about going for the cock, I'm going with you.
If you would like to experience the rest of this game story on your own, feel free to skip to this time, where I will summarize my feelings in a roundabout way, or I'll maroon you in a different part of the video. How would you like that? You have no reason to trust me. I may lead you astray in the gameplay segment or the end credits. Go ahead, take a ride, gamer. See where that gets you. You might be able to guess if by, where it is on the timeline. Yeah, never mind. We'll play it your way. You win this round, viewer.
So I lost a few bucks on the guy with the cups and the bowl. You know I'll get it back. Look, Lorraine, I didn't want to tell you just yet, but, well, I'm sweet on you, and I
think you got a dynamite keister. And you remembered how much I like getting slapped in the face. Oh, you're a real doll, you know that.
Do the waves mean something? Is that symbolism?
I don't know, I think they're coming or something?
Coming here?
No. Adam wakes up not in bed, but gripping a steel beam, suspended far above a construction site, and is forced to overcome his fears and ascend down, despite being unable to see the bottom or any other sign of civilization through a dense fog, eventually stumbling on the hanging body of the construction site's foreman, whose pockets contain an apology for taking bribes and knowingly using shoddy building materials. He's made use of the unaliving rope in hopes that his next life will be more honorable, which serves to explain the sequence of hazards and OSHA violations we had to endure in order to get here. So annoying that we had to go through that, but at least, yes, someone is taking accountability. With a satisfying explanation for this dream, we can wake up from it. That's normal, right? There being a coda at the conclusion of your nightmare. Your teeth started falling out at your ex's house, but slightly different because, well, they were attempting dental surgery on you at their newly renovated home office, and then there was an earthquake. Adam's progress from the previous day seems to have been undone, as the door to the bell tower is once again locked. On the way back down the cliff, we pass by a really horny Herman, and it's one of a handful of moments where the bad translation greatly elevates the material into something genuinely funny.
Did you notice that young Italian? She's a chick.
Probably.
I could really get into that. Then I saw her laying on the bed.
Really?
I don't know, man. There is a complex beauty to each line. It's kind of the perfect joke written by womanizing extraterrestrials. Dorothy confirms that even objects that could be used as tools to escape or tamper with the island are removed on a daily basis. Concerningly, last night, Edwin also had a nightmare, in which he was forced to kill Boris, who coincidentally nobody has seen today.
Dorothy told me she saw you with a tool.
What tool, man?
She said you were carrying something in your hand.
I see. That was just a stick. I didn't know that you already...
You ever just like have a conversation and like you're stuck in it, but you're thinking, why am I doing this? What are we talking about right now? That's kind of where I'm at with this one. We come to learn that some items appear to escape the detection of who or whatever keeps resetting the island. Mainly, an iron hook that Herman was using to retrieve coconuts. This story is interesting. I didn't mean that to sound so defensive. I meant this story, like Lost, has so many directions you could go to build mystery and suspense, so many little ways you could drip feed clues to the agape mouths of your audience. Every detail gets your gearworks sputtering to life, trying to work it all out. Where do the objects go every night? Why would an iron hook break this rule? Next Life... I keep really wanting to say Netflix. Next Life understands the appeal of that, but also presents some ideas that are interesting, but with no interest in writing dialogue for it. They ultimately decide to never have any of the characters address their individual timeline of origin, or share some moment of mutual confusion about it. Like, the idea of even implying it actively annoys them, and I'd sometimes forget that we're all from different places in time until Herman, calls Adam a Bolshevik or something. I mean, it's a thing that's resolved by the end. You know why they are from different times, but it's insane that nobody on this island, save for Adam, is curious about that, or for the most part, aggressively opposed to the concept. This guy's saying stuff from like 40 years ago, and you're like, hey, it sounds like you're from this time. And they're like, no, that's fucking stupid, okay? Anyways, back to sitting in the grass. It reminds me of a wild but ultimately inconsequential twist in Lost that insinuates to the audience that two characters are unknowingly siblings, which is interesting to only the viewer and wouldn't realistically ever come up in the present day segments naturally. There is no reason for it to be revealed to either party. I remember a bunch of Redditors becoming increasingly pissed off that the show was not addressing this, when it's like, this is kind of a dead-end plot point. Making that happen would require an insane knot of plot gymnastics, save for them somehow seeing the same series of flashbacks that we saw. This, however, seems far more pressing because it's tied to the sort of shared problem all the characters are facing, Why the hell are we on this goddamn island? With our newly acquired hook, Adam is able to once again pry open the door to the bell tower and reveal what was hidden behind that rock under a bush we set on fire. It's a fragment of a letter written in Portuguese, which we do not speak. Edwin points out that the bell of the bell tower doesn't seem to even be functional, suggesting the sound of the bell is being produced by a speaker instead. Danica can once again be found staring over the edge of the cliffside, having had progressively worse nightmares. Even though Adam has started having them too, he does not take the opportunity to reach out and connect through this shared traumatic mystery, reassure solidarity to someone who regularly stands at the edge of cliffs looking contemplative. He just says that the dreams are stupid. Yeah, just ignore them, it's stupid. Well, yeah, it's that time again. I gotta get hitting the old getting out of here. Though there is still no sign of Boris, or Ismail for that matter, it seems a new guy has arrived on the island, an Austrian post office worker and amateur volcanologist named Hans. His special interest in volcanoes is purely as a hobbyist, but he also has an encyclopedic recollection of every volcanic object known to man, and is thus concerned at the sight of one he can't recognize, questioning if the island even exists on the planet Earth. Hans is, needless to say, a quirky character, and goofiness of the game aside, he is one of a few characters in this game that feel like oddly realistic and specific people. He's hyper fixated on volcanoes, has has a distinct outfit, he's got a tick in his eye. There is a remarkable nature to his unremarkableness. There's even the implication that he may be gay, but it's another thing that's muddied by the dialogue. On a particularly hot day, everyone walks around in their underwear, and seeing Hans sitting by himself away from the women prompts Adam to ask lecherously, "Why aren't you looking at the girls? Does the sight of them not please your erogenous zones?" Which he waves off, instead complimenting Edwin's body. And now that I think about it, the fact that the majority of the characters greet Adam with contempt and anger is actually quite valid. Maria is able to read Portuguese, but is too busy showering to get to it right away. So Adam leaves the letter with her. Yukiko is kneeling next to the dead body of Danica, having lost her battle with the island's influences. Ever the empath, Adam offers some consoling words to our mute friend.
It's very sad, but we can't do anything about it.
See, in Lost, a character's death would consume the rest of the episode, and maybe the first third of the next. We'd see a burial, some mourning, maybe some lessons or development imparted to other characters. But in Next Life, we get a pretty firm... Anyways, while we were, you'd hope, on the way to fashion a shovel or something, the bell rings out and Adam keels over, waking up in another nightmare, this time stuck in the driver's seat of his car on a train track. A train barrels forward at anxiety-inducing speeds, while simply fucking nothing in this car does what it's supposed to do. And Mr. Butterfingers hasn't the executive functioning to get his vehicle to lurch forward a few feet or just exit it. It may be one of the most baffling sequences of timed item-based puzzle work. Adam eventually reaches his keys, inserts them, and races off, but strangely, perhaps out of panic, just keeps flooring it down a windy road before getting T-boned by another car, flipping his and running them off an embankment. But just to go back to that puzzle sequence, there really is something fascinating about it, because it's such a microcosm of stupid, annoying, inconvenient things that happen when you're panicking, and it might actually be kind of genius how they impart that feeling to you. You know, there's a murderer chasing you and you're coming up to your front door and you're flipping through keys and you suddenly forget which one opens what.
Oh God, I screwed up somehow? What the hell?
I know it's like spoken through so many layers of interference, but in high-stress situations, I think that's not far from what my thoughts become. If I was responsible for the likely death of another driver and their passenger, and my own car was on its side, rapidly becoming engulfed in flames, I'd probably say something like, "I screwed up somehow? What the hell?" There was a car behind him that skidded through a fence but was otherwise unharmed, and in an effort to help the car that crashed, he tries to pretend like this wasn't all his fault. I think that's what's happening. He just kind of like pretends to be an innocent bystander. He just happened by an accident, and then when the driver realizes what he's doing, he attempts to kick his ass, but steps in a puddle that just so happened to have a live power wire in it and falls down, leading to Adam saying the exact thought I had and will come to have several more times.
I don't get it. What just happened?
Some adventure games, present one included, seem to really get a kick out of mildly breaking the fourth wall, putting a dent in it at least, and doubling the protagonist's inner monologue as also being directed to you, the gamer. This way, they can get away with either expressing incredulity at your attempts to play the game, or flippant, self-aware remarks about the actual thing you're supposed to do. Like it's my fucking fault for trying to figure out what you want from me. Yes, I'm playing this game for my own amusement, to just for a goddamn second not have to think about the indignity of living. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to make Adam happy. For example, you can pick up a brick and he responds by saying,
"What do I do with it? Break something maybe?"
It's like, you tell me, bro. You have agency in this story. I'm just pointing at things in your world. How about yes, actually? How about break something? You never know. Oh, turns out you did have to break something. Imagine that! You used a brick for one of its three purposes. 1, building things. 2, breaking things. And 3, to reimagine the Chandler-esque hard-boiled detective story in a modern Southern California high school. Ryan Johnson! This could be a result of translation or just Adam's characterization, but sometimes you'll click on something that seems to be important After all, you can click on it. But Adam is not convinced, even dissuading you from pursuing that line of thought any further. It's only in accomplishing the correct combination of items that he comes to see the value in what you were doing. After stabilizing the 2 victims of the accident he caused, he needs some way of signaling for help to passing cars. To make this happen, you need a hubcap from the crashed vehicle, but trying to pry it off with his bare hands, he says it's pointless. It's too rusty and he's too tired to continue prying. He gives a lot of definitive, I can't do this will never work type responses. When I think proper adventure game etiquette would be to say, I can't do this with my bare hands. Or if you want to get really lazy in order to reuse the hint elsewhere, something is missing here. We instinctively look for feedback in situations like this, right? Am I off base with this or on the right track? And the wording can be really important. Me and my avatar have to be on the same page, but I don't think this guy trusts me at all. And with good reason. I'm evil. As soon as Adam stumbles out of his shack, back in the waking world, Maria jogs up to him and informs him that the paper we gave her is gone, reset like everything else, but she did remember that it was some kind of record of land snatching, dated 1418, declaring the island property of the Portuguese crown. Also of interest, apparently the 2 islands are connected via a cave system. This is maybe the most lucid interaction you have with any of the other characters. She apologizes for losing the paper and accepts that they are on a weird mystery island. And not scherzi a parte. With Danica's body gone, a new player has joined. This time, coincidentally, another Czech named Eva. The serendipity of them being named Adam and Eva while stranded on a tropical island is not lost on our hero.
Our very own Adam and Eve.
Who clumsily attempts to hit on her, before asking for the sordid details of her near demise before waking up here.
The girl doesn't understand me either.
She's dumb.
Jesus, the things us introverts will sit through. After a big ol' swing and a miss with Eva, we notice a third new face on the beach, an American lawyer named Simon, who appropriately interrupts our attempted pleasantries and simply threatens to sue Adam for kidnapping. Unwilling to humor conversation with us, Adam wants to again rappel down the side of the cliff and explore a cave that may lead to the second island. But Simon is there, and well, he can't do it while someone is watching, so he attempts to ask Eva to provide a distraction. She does not take this well, not appreciating his attempt at roping her into a chauvinist trope. Enter Maria. The plan goes off without a hitch, only there is pretty much nothing in the cave except for a stick that is somewhat larger than the ones we've been collecting daily. An earthquake drives the characters to the cliffs, so we can catch up with all of them. Eva still hates us. Edwin, for some reason, wishes he had dreamt about killing Simon instead of Boris. Somewhat acknowledging a correlation there, right? Like, you dreamt about killing a guy, and now that guy doesn't seem to exist anymore. And you're like, damn, I wish I could have dreamt about killing that other guy. If that is why they are no longer here, because of my dream. Herman is pissed at Maria for hitting on Simon when he had planned to reveal his feelings for her this morning, and Hans, turning out to be a more valuable addition to the group than us, has noticed a possible cave entrance that has appeared thanks to the earthquake. Adam, with only stick and rock at his disposal, starts stick and rocking the opening until eventually, somehow, it... Maria wakes in a good mood, being such an OP character that she's seemingly the only one capable of having good dreams on this island. She's also excited to pursue things further with Simon. Adam makes some attempt at policing this choice, but is thankfully shut down by Maria pretty quickly, but also leaves us with a hint that despite Eva recoiling at our every interaction and showing nothing but disgust for Adam, I wouldn't say it's because she doesn't like us. See, sometimes your wires get all mixed up when you're into a guy, and you don't know if it's because, you want to fold them like a paper plane and hurl them at a wall, or if, you want a little kissy. I think they are attempting to display negging, and it's struggling to get through. But certainly in the next interaction with her, she includes a lot more vague, tee-hee, I have a little secret type of dialogue in between insults, which are of course the only thing Adam picks up on. Whatever, you're stupid. You think because you're sexy that you can be idiots in front of me? stupid bastard, hug me. Hold me, I'm alone. Uh-oh. There is once again a new person on the island, a French skier named Michel, who claims to be from the year 20, which I'm assuming to be a read aloud typo, as Adam has no follow-up questions to that.
But which year?
Are you joking? 20.
We are suddenly given a few larger pieces of the puzzle after a drought of progress on that front. It being Hans's third day on the island, he's had his first nightmare and compared it to Dorothy's and some of the other girls, determining the common thread between them to be that they reflect the dreamer's greatest fears. On the beach, Adam finds a wrapper for the crackers that are replenished daily that has a message on it, referencing someone named Walter, and the fact that there are no rodents on the island, as they would interfere with the sleeping experiment subjects. The implication of this note casts a worrisome shadow over everything. I mean, no rodents? In a video game? Get the fuck out of here. Then why am I playing this? You think I like disappointing people? Oh, it's time for another roundup. Nothing. Unbelievable.
This is Eloise.
Good! Returning to the cave, Adam crawls inside only for the opening to be blocked by Simon, who makes a deal for a bottle that was sitting in there, only to immediately betray us and leave us to die. Eventually, after exhausting every combination of rock and stick that Adam could think of, and coming up with nothing, Eva hears Adam's shouting and runs over to get help from Hans.
Hi, Adam. I have a small stick, but you need to help me from inside. Do you also have a small stick?
I don't know how to answer that, Hans.
Adam, what are you talking about? Is the stick too small?
No, that's not the problem. In fact, I think my stick is quite normal.
Adam, you needn't be ashamed. I accept you.
Okay, I would not count that as a small stick. Oh, this old thing? While Hans explains that Eva went to dry off, I think the localization team had a disagreement on how pervy he was going to describe that.
She was all wet. I could see her shaking nicely under her clothes.
And where is she?
Either option seems odd, when it's immediately followed with him sorrowfully announcing that Dorothy has gone missing. Let's just say the topic of her wet clothes wasn't the only thing to come up, if you catch my meaning. Our friend is gone, taken in the night by forces unknown. Any one of us could be next. Nobody's safe on this island. In one of a handful of scenes I simply don't understand, and can only offer you a straightforward description of. Following another earthquake, we find the twisted body of Simon, while Maria, as if in a trance, dances blank-faced above him.
I don't have anything to ask.
Really? You don't have anything to ask her? I mean, I know he was an asshole, but you can't think of like one question? Even if it's, may I have this dance? It really makes me wonder if it's only because of the English script that the story often comes across like a Swedish existentialist film, and maybe in Czech it's a lot more coherent. Eva, Michel, and Yukiko are huddled together in one of the shacks. They explain that Simon suddenly started hitting Yukiko, prompting Edwin to intervene, and Simon stumbled over the edge. I guess, knowing that Adam is the only one interested in the lore of the island, she hands over a message, like the one we already found, which was hidden inside the bottle we handed Simon. It introduces the author as an archaeologist named Dieter Schwarz, a former inhabitant of the island, clearly addressing his replacement. It says the island is an experiment and everyone on it a guinea pig. After the bell rings, odd creatures come to the island and conduct experiments, and each of us are tagged with a microchip that triggers sleep. Edwin is clearly upset about accidentally killing Simon, in an understated Scottish kind of way.
I really didn't want to do that.
Later, when the reality of the situation breaks through to Maria, Herman sits with her and creepily consoles her. We can return his lost hat to him, and in return, he tells us that he found one of those notes from Dieter, but he had thrown it into the ocean assuming it was nonsense. Thankfully, invaluable character Hans fished it out of the water and gives it to Adam. This one explains that one can't simply remove their microchip. If they do, the creatures will assume the subject is dead and look for a body. It would be smarter to attach the chip to a rodent or bird, which would help you avoid detection for longer. As we know, absurdly, stupidly, there are no rodents on the island, so it's looking like a bird is the way to go, especially since Herman already built a bird trap with no real plan on what he'd use it for. This method of doling out exposition via found instructions reminded me of something that might be kind of random, might have me holding up a spork, but hear me out. Lost also does a thing where some answers are given alongside many new questions in the form of orientation videos from a defunct research group. Maybe not as inventive as scrawled on the packaging of crackers that magically appear each morning, but then again, pretty sure they had those too. Adam awakes on the floor of what appears to be a filthy, run-down morgue. This time he's not alone. Stuck in another room is Edwin, but he's very suspicious to find Adam walking around in his dream, leading to the longest, most amusingly frustrating circular argument. It's me, Adam, from the island. Yeah, I know Adam. Cool, let's work together. Why should I trust you? I'm Adam, you know me. Yeah, but why should I believe that? And it's just that for, I timed it, 5 whole minutes. It's almost admirable how long they let this borderline who's on first conversation go on for, and further just this scene. I felt like I spent a good hour just standing in this fucking hallway. The problem is that the room which Edwin is stuck in has no light source, but Adam has a light bulb and no way of giving it to him, and this may get into the weeds with gameplay, but all of this game's worst tendencies are on full display here, as you're jumping the gun with the solution and then conferring with Edwin, which then makes the solution you already tried then work, and so forth. Either way, eventually we figure out the MacGyver-esque sequence required to bring light to Edwin's room, and having only now convinced him that we are not some kind of illusion, he gives us a key that he woke up with, which allows us to further explore the morgue, then finding the key to release him, but he's not the same Edwin as on island. Hard to say if he's some twisted version created with Adam's own mind, or if we are invaders in his. Unfortunately, their repaired partnership lasts all but 2 minutes, as Edwin locks Adam in a dissection room and taunts him from the other side of a seemingly unbreakable window. They argue for a while in the pointless way they've done all nightmare, until the phone in a nearby office rings. There's a woman on the other end that asks to speak with Edwin. He agrees to come out and answer if Adam lays down his pipe, hold up, disarms, and in a confused daze walks into the next room. Following him, he's standing over 2 bodies in bags.
Edwin, why run away? You know I do not have the stamina of the living. And what are these 2? Have you been making friends while I searched? Must be you're pondering the mills of God, the strangeness of our mortality. Here but only for a couple of measly years, then to return to dust once we came from it. You know, Edwin, I'm reminded of a thing I saw.
Sometime later, Adam begins to rise, like a monster from his slab, when suddenly— wait, that's not the right order. Edwin has entered a murderous rage, somehow convinced that Adam killed his wife and daughter, the 2 bodies waiting by the freezers. He makes it clear that he's gonna go find some means of killing you and then he'll be right back. Look, I know Edwin. We go all the way back to island times. He can be reasoned with. I'm sure if we talked it out— oh, I've written enough notes in blood to know that this was from the heart. The penmanship as well. Like, this is exceptional work. Not to be outdone by Edwin's sudden onset of psycho bloodlust, Adam's like, what's my move? How do I stop him from killing me? He then quickly thumbs through a book about autopsies, learning about the concept of post-mortem muscle spasms. Now let me ask you, where do you think he's going with this? As he is removing a corpse from a freezer and laying it on a table, wheeling it over to the dissecting room, grabbing a scalpel, how is this gonna stop a guy that wants to kill him? I ask only because not a step of this was intuitive or logical on my end. For this bit, Adam was channeling the thinking of an Alex Gray painting. He makes a deep incision into the corpse's chest and inserts one end of a lamp's wiring into the body, so that when Edwin strolls in with an axe, the body will wiggle and terrify him, which in all fairness did exactly what he thought it would do. Bear in mind, we are in his dream, so he's probably influencing the effectiveness of this Logan Paulian scare tactic, whether he knows it or not. For whatever reason, whoever was transcribing the subtitles for this game decided to get real experimental with this sequence, out of nowhere taking the liberty to add descriptive explainers for non-verbal sounds the characters make. When you answer Edwin's call, they describe the noise he's making as Edwin's angry fuming. He's trying to calm down and contain himself so that he can even start to talk. When Adam sees the bodies of Edwin's family, they describe his reaction as a deep breathe in to get rid of fright, which I can only guess they are now doing because the hard turn this game has taken into psychological horror invites a number of complex and intense emotions, and they thought this Tay-Zonday-like reassurance that what's happening here makes sense was warranted. Like, don't worry, there's a reason I'm doing this. Before we can get back to the island, Adam has one more elaborate trick up his sleeve. He's so creative in the land of Nod. While cornered in a laboratory of some sort, he finds a hidden room and positions himself behind a shelf blocking it.
As someone once said, the dice have been thrown.
Through a cutout hole, he watches Edwin enter with that same murderous glint in his eyes, but he also notices what appears to be the severed head of Simon in a jar. Now, what I think happens here is that Adam performs some kind of somehow convincing act of ventriloquism, pretending to be the ghost of Simon. There is then a cut, wherein either Edwin hits himself with the axe or Adam does. Either way, Edwin's bleeding out on the floor, and this seems to have been the desired outcome. I think we wanted this. The mood of day 6 is firmly at odds with its pleasant weather. Eva's had her first nightmare, everyone is traumatized from the sudden loss of Simon and Dorothy, and now, of course, Edwin, quickly replaced by a Polish snorkeler named Jadwiga. I don't know if it was a conscious decision, but Adam sounds completely done with attempting to acclimate the newbies to their new life as an island experimental subject. He's just like,
oh really, that's crazy, yeah. I gotta go put my microchip in the bird so the overlords cannot detect me. Enjoy your crackers.
I saw a bottle in the water, so I went there to pick it up.
I see.
And I slipped.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And this is what I found inside.
Thanks a lot. I was trying to find it for a long time.
Alright, I'll just read this to myself right here then.
Second message.
This does kind of reflect the last 2 seasons of Lost, because in those, there was a bunch of new characters that show up, and nobody's like, God, so much has happened, sit down. They kind of just became like cannon fodder. There's no time to explain 5 seasons worth of shit to you. The next note explains that the Portuguese inhabitants of this island moved to the second one during low tide, and that the microchip is placed between the collarbones. I mean, even if you read this in their proper order, it's very odd syntax for a prisoner's guide to freedom.
Oh god, this is so awkward. I'm sorry for just standing here. Would you like this bird I caught for you? No? Okay.
Adam begins making preparations to follow in Dieter's footsteps, procuring a bird from Herman's trap, using Danica's glasses to slice the chip out of his chest, and tying it to the bird before setting it free. He then steals Jadwiga's flippers and sets about knocking a log off the side of the cliff, in which to let the current carry him away. Yukiko, Eva, and Maria gather around to wish Adam good luck on his escape attempt. A powerful parting that is undercut only slightly by the POV shot they went with. I don't even rightfully understand what these idle movements they are making are meant to mimic. If I speed them up, they just look like a flock of pigeons.
Thank you, Maria. I hate parting.
You will manage it?
Yeah, like in a stupid American movie.
Wow. After we were so gracious to film Alien vs. Predator in your country, you're fucking welcome, bro. I'd like to inflict upon the gamer their worst nightmare and speak about the treatment of women in a video game. I've long held an affinity for the output of future games. As guardians of a genre rapidly evolving beyond recognition, I could empathize with just wanting to halt the marching of time and stay in this moment. Cling tightly to the fading hologram of something we held dear. but you know, they didn't have the greatest track record writing women. Most of them just kind of die or get in the way, so it was a pleasant surprise seeing a variety of women, binders full of them, in this game, and especially Maria, who is introduced as one of many dummies that don't seem to be capable of processing the threat they face. But eventually she proves her resourcefulness by translating an important clue, as well as manipulating others to do her bidding, and even rejecting Adam's attempts at policing her behavior.
Don't be my angel. I don't need it.
This is a nearly complete idea of a character, and I applaud them for making the effort, even if they may have cut some corners by lifting Shannon from Lost, who is at first shown to be a shallow airhead, but winds up translating an important clue and shows the ability to get what she wants through manipulation, where again a White Knight character attempts to save her only to realize that it is unneeded. All that's missing is a vampire stepbrother in which to fuck. Now, sure, this character and all the others of roughly the same age and build are also just kind of there so we can bump into them in the shower, which could have been obfuscated with the inclusion of even one hot guy. But instead we do get to see, you know, Herman on the toilet, which doesn't feel like an even distribution of millennial smut. Just Adventure's review of the game includes a segment called Playing the Sex Card, in which they write, "Sex sells, just like on Lost and shows like Survivor, where the attractive females seem to end up scantily clad. This game seems to have taken several pages from their playbook and pushed it several steps beyond." And Lost does feature similar scenarios, but the thing is, it's almost always saying literally anything with it. The iconic shot of Kate bathing in the ocean is paired with Sun looking at her from afar, longing for Kate's freedom and sense of self outside the confines of her stifling and miserable marriage, weighed down by Jin's feelings of inadequacy, being not only the son of a lowly fisherman, but also unable to impregnate his wife and forced to make ends meet by doing a mobster's bidding. This is paid off twofold by Sun leaving him and getting her own moment of free-spirited expression that is clearly in reference to that moment, but more importantly, I think you'll agree, so does Jin upon the two communicating their issues and making up, inciting a spit take from at least one viewer. When Juliet and Kate mud wrestle while handcuffed to one another, Adam floats away on his log until he notices a strange hovering craft flying low above the water, whereupon he dives in and swims the rest of the way. On the second island, we spot a woman and a child amidst bamboo-constructed buildings. The presence of these natives brings into question where exactly we are in time and space. The long-abandoned ruins of what appears to be a church further obfuscate this. In order to gain entrance to this village, Adam has to enter a crypt beneath the church where a stone idol of theirs was locked away for an unknowable amount of time. I guess it shouldn't surprise me that the studio who cut their teeth on the Finding the Stone Idol game and then refined it by making you find a stone idol in high definition would find some way of working in a stone idol for you to find. Just Indiana Jones heads to their core. Once returned, he waltzes in and starts asking around for Dieter, and the child appears to recognize the name before running off. After a long climb up a perilous mountain, guarded by men, pigs, snakes, treacherous chasms, the likes of which would make any daredevil cross themselves, Adam arrives at Dieter's home and immediately starts poring over his diary. It explains that he was an archaeologist in his late 50s who was meant to die in a landslide while working at a Bolivian dig site. He then came to on the island, not dead. It then follows his recollection of much the same journey we've had, coming to understand the island's rules. Items disappearing nightly, sleep coming at the tolling of the bell, and so forth. And eerily similar, he also learned about the method of escaping to the second island via a series of notes left by someone. For him, a doctor named Walter. After destroying his microchip, he watched from afar as what looked like robots emerged from a ship and dragged everyone back to their respective shack, while swapping one of them out with a new person. He then hid himself in their ship, and somewhere in between that and arriving on the island, this ship crashed and he was pulled from it by the natives and nursed back to health. Eventually, he learns that some are descendants of the Portuguese, but much of their population was killed off by diseases brought by the Portuguese. They live in fear of a crater in the island's center, which he visited only to see more people but not natives. Guys in lab coats taking measurements and collecting data at the volcanic site. Over the days, he eventually forms a relationship with a woman named Tamine, though that also may have been a typo, as he alternatively says her name is Tahine. He does later announce that she is pregnant, so I'd hope he caught her first name. It's a small island. So this is a lot of exposition to absorb, yes. But what if I told you that within this dump was a secondary dump of even greater significance? Within this diary, Dieter goes over this time that he found a man impaled by a trap left for wild pigs, but he belonged to the research team seen around the crater. He was also armed with some kind of rechargeable pistol of unknown origin, but he brings this guy back to his home and attempts to treat his wounds. But it's obvious that his condition is worsening and he'll probably die soon. With the curtain closing, he decides to come clean with Dieter about a few things. It is currently, as we are reading this diary, the year 1507. The dying man's people are from a future pharmaceutical corporation and operating a secret laboratory in the past in which to research stress. In the future, it seems people are under a lot of stress. A prediction that aged well enough, this corporation is trying to find a chemical means of combating stress, surpassing the various medications produced from 2007 forward. They seem to be taking aim at the very concept of experiencing stress at any level. Zero tolerance. They select people who are about to die, presumably at the height of stress, teleporting them to the island where they are given so much stress in the form of dreams that they are driven insane. Then, after some studying of their brain chemistry, they are sent back to that moment before death to mercifully die as they were meant to, or arranged to, perhaps. It's harder than it looks, isn't it? You know, this whole writing thing. Look, I have no shame in admitting I like a mystery box. Hell, anything could be in there. What an exciting thought! If you've ever been watching a show and tuned out, feeling as though its narrative was perpetuating a cycle of one answer leading to two more questions that exhausted you, enter me. That's when I start perking up my ears. Maybe it plays into some deeper source of dopamine, comparable to gambling, only the currency is time. It's emotional investment with fiction. And any gambling addict will tell you that, hey, we all love to win, but winning, having a good ending, or losing, having a bad ending, is not where the high comes from, right? It's for that glorious, slow motion moment where the cards are being laid out and anything could happen. You might pump your fist and say, yeah, baby, that's what daddy likes, baby. Baby wants to f***. Or you might be saying, fuck! I need to make a few calls. Don't let anyone else sit here. Oh, hey fellas, can I borrow a... You're very strong, sir. Eventually, you have to face the music and open the box. What's in it? It's a pharmaceutical experiment involving both teleportation and time travel, and if the text is to be believed, robots. We knew this was a possibility, right? Hell, even Lost, a show that I was embedded in the online discourse on a week-to-week basis, had theories that there was some kind of mechanical dinosaur that the camera was just refusing to show us. Spoilers for just the concept of that? There was not a mechanical dinosaur. It was something that only sounded like a mechanical dinosaur for, as far as I can recall, no other reason than it was an interesting thing for it to sound like. No character asks, hey, why does that thing sound like that? Who cares? It's a mystery. Actually, I'd be in derelict of fandom if I didn't mention that Rose said like the sound reminded her of her home, and someone asks, where are you from? And she says the Bronx, but the sound designer did incorporate a recording of a New York taxi receipt printer into the monster sound palette, and that's a great way to leave that. I don't know why they did that. It could mean anything. Anything. I feel like I was headed somewhere with that. Oh, right. So this is kind of dumb, right? In the gambling metaphor, Lady Luck did not cast her gaze upon us. But did you know you can take control of your own luck thanks to our second sponsor, DraftKings? You! Sponsor this! How do you like that? Oh, you can't see that. Rest assured, I'm doing something very rude with my fingers. Something you'd be shocked to behold. not that. As soon as we set this diary down, its author appears behind us, wielding a spear and clad in army fatigues. Eager to return to wherever Adam was driving in the game's opening, he asks to be led to the crater Dieter mentioned so he can look for a way back to his time and place. Preferably not exactly, though. Back, but a little to the left. Maybe, I don't know. He does so, giving us the dead Corpo's laser gun and some, I don't know what those are, persimmons maybe, for the journey. He's content with his life on the island and has no intention of leaving, but he agrees to shepherd the rest of the test subjects over here, should Adam succeed in shutting down the experiment. Upon reaching the crater, Adam sees what I can only describe as a robot, which we can promptly laser gun down. It was in that what seemed like an eternity between the blue rod exiting our gun and hitting the robot that I marveled at how much they were really committing to this idea, and that there truly didn't seem to be any way of walking it back. Here we are now. This is what we're doing. The first draft of Smells Like Teen Spirit. From the outside of some kind of volcanic base, Adam watches a hovercraft swoop in and then back up into a garage, which hangs open long enough for him to slip inside. And here we are, in the belly of the beast, in the architect's panopticon, ready to receive the final pieces of the puzzle. Oh, hello.
Can you help me, please? What is that thing coming at me?
Okay, so what you had to do was see the future where that robot disembarked from his craft and then shoot it in the back. And then hydrate. I don't know why it amuses me that while wandering this futuristic umbrella-esque facility with holographic monitors and command chairs bolted to the ground, both mine and Adam's first instinct was to shove our hand in the wastebasket just by the entrance. Almost like we both scan every room for viable garbage, in which we find a love note between coworkers, one of which Mary, as if to remind you that these guys are probably not nice. At the foot of a staircase lies a long-dead researcher whose finger Adam removes in order to access a barracks of sorts. Sifting through this guy's belongings reveals that the project taking place on the island that we've all been a part of was folded a while ago. Some governing entity in the future caught on to their wild human rights violations, and the corporation's leadership was arrested and the data collected dumped. This captain of the project was tasked with destroying the facility itself and then teleporting himself to a designated safe zone in space and time. Only I guess he tripped on his shoelaces and died at the bottom of a small set of stairs instead. With this information, we head to the control center and prime the place to explode, instructing their teleporter to take Adam to 1 hour after he was about to get into a car accident, and a little to the left. While waiting for the device to boot up, Adam sees a disoriented looking Eva and is reminded that there is a whole island of people that might also want to go back home. Maybe it's because it's a heightened emotional moment between two characters with complicated feelings for one another, but this conversation is maybe the most uncanny interaction in the whole game. Like, every line is a head scratcher, pushing me further and further from empathizing with our cast.
Can I use your screwdriver?
What are those?
Don't worry, they are out of order now.
Where are we? And what are we gonna do?
There is a body in decay down there and it stinks terribly.
I don't wanna know that.
Stay here and don't move anywhere.
I'm afraid.
I'll call you later. There's no time to talk now.
But I'm afraid.
I wouldn't be surprised if the lines were assembled out of order on top of mistranslated.
Listen, girl, I will give you a call later. Things are in danger right now, and I don't want to drive around the house in a little car.
Adam and Eva walk into the teleporter, which is user-friendly enough for us to just start, plugging in numbers and standing on a square. It takes a while to boot up, so might as well enjoy all this island water before, diving into the plasma pool, before I am destroyed and recreated, neither of which am I afraid of, by the way. The two are shot through time and space to that road in Prague, where the flaming wreck of Adam's car is blocked off by a cop. Suddenly chivalrous, he decides to carry Eva off to wherever they are headed with their new lease on life. Before the credits roll, a title card leaves us with a parting question to ask ourselves. Everyone has stressing situations in his life, and sometimes it seems like if luck turned its head away from us. Does really everyone control his fate firmly, or are we shifted by different political, economic, military, national, or other interests? My grandpa used to say that there are no such interests, that there are just personal ones, and that fools who climbed up in desire for power, fame, and money shape our fates. He's a wise man, but thanks to such fools, we now got our chance to make our lives longer. Only time will show whether it was good or bad. I don't have any idea whether my granny was right, if there's anything above us, or if everything is just chaos. What do you think? Me? What do I think? Why did we blow up the teleporter? Didn't that destroy the only means of Yukiko, Maria, Michelle, Herman, Hans, Jadwiga returning to their proper time and place? Now they are not only stranded in the 1500s, but cut off from the automated system that was regularly feeding them crackers and water? Like, surely we didn't just save ourselves and the girl we like, while dooming the rest of the cast to island life for no reason. I feel like that can't be right. Maybe I missed one line of dialogue that clears this up. Dieter says he's bringing all those unhappy souls over to this island. But to do what? Move to a place without metal sheds to protect them from the elements? We locked the door on the way out. They're gonna get there and ask, so Adam sent you? Well, where is he? Oh, he used the time machine to go back to his own time. There's a time machine? That's perfect. Yeah, I figured you'd be glad to hear that. Huh? What was that? Do you like small bananas? We got these bananas. The ending of Next Life is strange, finishing on a note more befitting a lighthearted adventure game and not a dark, twisted sci-fi thriller from the mid-aughts, gaming's stinkiest era. They successfully fought off the impulse to give the game some grimdark Twilight Zone finish where Adam is teleported to the middle of the road with only seconds to realize he is about to be struck by his own car, satisfying a tragic causality loop from which there is no subversion. Before robots entered the equation, I would not have been surprised if the entire narrative we experienced was some kind of split-second fantasy in the interstice between the brain's final synapse firing and the moment Adam's car exploded. A fantasy of mind or magic that slowed time long enough for our protagonist to find some peace or acceptance with themselves before moving on to an idealized afterplace. A life that came next if you— oh my god. Next Life is not a piece of metafiction, but I think the obnoxious impulse within me, when confronted with a mystery narrative, is to prepare a series of doorways of potential dimensions in which X turned out to be the ending. The two examples I've given are, of course, derivative. They are me using the things I know that I've seen elsewhere but can't place, in an attempt to prove to nobody that I'm smarter than the author of a piece of fiction, which of course I am not, as they made a video game and I, in that moment, did not. In the moments to follow have not. My attempts to intellectualize this game were thwarted when it technically did do something I would have never guessed. It picked a very silly idea and then concluded with levity and merriment over grimness and contemplation. It led to a moment of self-reflection where I thought, why did I want it to be fucked up? I've never had the opportunity to interact with a single other human being that experienced this game in full or even in partial, so there are seldom places for me to compare notes on it. What few Wayback Machine-aided blog posts I could find to stand in place for a general reaction seem to be dominated by the idea that the ending fails by leaving things too open-ended. The word ambiguous is used more than once in relation to it, which I found sort of odd. Setting aside my higher than average tolerance for ambiguity, which I am aware of, I'm just not seeing what vital piece of its mythology was left unaccounted for. The problem kind of resolved itself and then we left, aside from the fate of the other characters, which seems less like sequel bait and more like an oversight. They just did not care about the other characters in the end. I don't know, you escaped? Fuck them. The closing text seems to, from what I can make of it, imply that what the story was meant to explore was the nature of fate and our control over it. Do we make our own luck and our own destiny, or is something real or imagined influencing both at all times? Does chaos or creation move us through life? Or maybe it's a science experiment controlled by robots from the future. There isn't nothing backing that up. After all, the majority of the characters exhibit some form of denial, complacency, or delusion leading to inaction. Nobody but Adam seems to be proactively trying to both understand and escape this scenario. He even brings this up in frustration, his unwillingness to be a sheep.
So why are you running outside if you don't like the rain?
I won't be a sheep. I have to do something.
For all the parallels to Christianity, it could be seen as taking a stance on that theme as well, by having you immediately bludgeon the faith's only proponent, probably to death. The guy responsible for the title drop and the first indication of a religious theme at all is bonked with a pointed stick so we could smell someone take someone's undergarments for a puzzle.
Check that out.
Oh no, there's more.
That's no big deal, really.
It's strange revisiting Next Life after a good 15 years. In some ways, the things I found goofy and broken about it are worse than I remember, but having grown as a person since then, at least as far as how I analyze and critique media, and not so much in wardrobe or diet or behavior, I now see what works about its story and what may have led to it taking up residence in my head for all these years. Though the bizarre, dismissive, I guess you could say, ending ignores this, Next Life does excel at characters where a lot of better games falter. Almost all of the island dwellers have a very distinct personality, background, and opinion on the bizarre hand they've been dealt. Everyone is dealing or coping in their own unique way, and forming alliances or friendships, and the game constantly shows us this, even when it's not feeding us clues or hints concerning the mystery. You'll just happen to bump into one standing guard while the other uses the toilet in their doorless shed, or another lends their shoes to someone so they can go for a jog. It's a really weird circumstance for a bunch of people to have to get used to and put up with, and that comes across. The what do we even do here? When do we get to go home of it all? Everyone experiencing something akin to how I felt when my mother would take me to Marshall's or Ross Dress for Less. A stagnant, depressing acquiescence to a higher power. The power of Mother Dear. And sure, there is interference in enjoying that. The dialogue suffers. But I think the effort there is legible and laudable in crafting a large cast of characters that don't feel like cartoons of archetypes, despite what they say often requiring you to reassemble and decrypt whole sentences in your head. Some lines are funny because they are broken, but some are also funny as well as broken. This exchange where Herman suddenly asks Adam about mobile phones, a technology he should know nothing about, and Adam just plays dumb about it, was a deliberate comedy beat, but the awkward phrasing almost heightened it to be even funnier.
Do you have any idea what a mobile phone is?
It's a toy that discomforts people. Don't worry about that.
I thought so. I was just testing you.
The one instance Herman shows any interest in the idea that we are from the future and Adam shoots him down.
Don't worry about that. Probably you've been watching too much C-Lab 2020, a show I would also know about for a different reason.
I would be interested to see a thoughtful retranslation of the script and see if anything is recovered or if more would be lost in that endeavor. Why amend the simple joy of reading the word fuck but hearing the word shoot?
Well, you know what? Damn it. I don't want to talk with you.
You know, it feels reductive and disrespectful to the work, to the Herculean task of creating and shipping a video game to continuously point to another work and remark on its similarities. But Lost was no stranger to invoking the language and imagery of the Catholic faith and other religious texts and philosophies to engage in the cowardly implementation of subtext. Actually, given that several characters are simply named after historic figures that might not be subtext, that might actually be dom text. Spirituality is hard-coded and unavoidable in that series, and some of these uses are successful, while others can be a bit goofy. Now, I'm only guessing that the creators of Next Life were largely inspired by that show. I have no proof other than a series of remarkable coincidences. I'm open to being persuaded otherwise, but right now I see no evidence of absence, and I like talking about things I know a stupid amount about. With that in mind, Lost was from episode 1 to the finale fixated on examining broken characters, lost in a spiritual sense, reprobates, if you will, and seeing how, given the chance to rebuild elsewhere, given a next life, if you fucking must, seeing how they would find themselves, fix themselves, or die.
Everyone gets a new life on this island, Shannon. Maybe it's time you start yours.
Naming Next Life Reprobates is a lot more on the nose than Lost even, because its dual meaning can just refer to lost physically. Physically, they do not know where they are.
She looks lost, like me.
I don't know if Next Life is doing that exactly. I mean, how is Hans broken? He seems to be the most well-adjusted human on the fucking planet.
And I don't go anywhere without shoes.
I see.
I would have little toes like a small piggy.
Even Maria, aside from needing some time to accept that they are on an island, requires no character development. She knows who she is. She'll keep on hustling, make money till the cash starts rustling. That's a song. Now that this concept has been scooped up and held over a new creation, what is it saying with it? What is it guessing that the show, which had 3 more years in it, was going to be exploring? That in itself is what is kind of intriguing to me. To have your source of inspiration be vibes-based, pulling from incomplete data. I know I want a mystery premise, I want an island, I want a diverse cast of characters, some helpful and some that just kind of want to hang out. I know I want a protagonist that should not be operating a motor vehicle. In truth, this game doesn't require this deep of analysis, if that wasn't obvious. I think what it was aiming for was a compelling premise and some fun interplay between characters, and I think it largely succeeds at both of those things. If anything, it's the lack of ambiguity that causes it to stumble in my eyes. After a great deal of admiring the wrapping, it takes the lid off the mystery box with such speed and force that the mystery falls on the floor, but you don't notice, so you're looking inside like, I don't get it. The point-and-click game as a concept is deceptively simple. It's only asking 2 things of you, right? And you're probably capable of doing those things. Hell, I've seen people do it with their brainwaves or a flute being operated by one's feet. There's a lot of options for the feet. Hey, you know what? Let's end that sentence right goddamn there. So, you play enough of these and you realize how all the annoyances or missteps of the genre are a game of degrees that may never truly please any adventure gamer. On a base level, the pointing and clicking in Next Life works just fine, but there are problems elsewhere in the construction that may have leaked into the gameplay that aren't always the gameplay's fault. There's a big instruction and feedback issue that has almost nothing to do with the mechanics and more to do with writing. The dialogue often gives you unhelpful or outright incorrect information about what you need to do to overcome an obstacle. One of the more glaring examples of this happens during the nightmare sequence in the morgue. Adam stumbles out of a broom closet and is immediately met with 2 locked doors, one with some kind of porthole window that is too dirty to see through. Thinking, like the thief I am, I instinctively find a nearby pipe and attempt to break the window in order to reach around and open the door. Adam says he doesn't want to make any unnecessary noise for some reason, which is fine. I guess that's off the table. Using a wet rag on the window reveals that there is a person on the other side, making the pipe necessary enough. So he does it. He gives a few whacks at the window with the pipe, but says, I could be doing this until dawn, and it would still be of no use. So that's not the way forward. So I take a beat, scan my surroundings, fiddle with my items before giving up and just trying the pipe again. To which Adam says an even more dismissive phrase, "This is pointless. What I need is dynamite." Okay, I get it. Got it. I need to think of something else. How about the pipe again? Okay, now we're in trouble. It's looping the same line. That's a dead end if I ever seen one. How about one more time for good measure?
This is pointless.
Fuck.
This is
God
pointless.
Damn.
This is pointless. What I need is dynamite.
I do not want to look up a walkthrough for 2007's Next Life. Good old pipe. Nothing beats that.
Stop! Enough.
It worked! There's numerous times where you try something and Adam quite plainly tells you this will not work, or I need to think of something else. And the solution is just to try it again an arbitrary number of times.
It's not possible from this side.
Not possible from this side? Hang on, what if I just did it again? I was a lot further into this game than you'd think before I even reckoned with the fact that Adam has a stamina bar, determining how many actions he can do. That can be as simple as walking up some stairs or picking up a stick. All these actions drain stamina, and eventually he will refuse to follow your commands until he either eats or drinks something. This is the actual purpose of the water and crackers you're given at the start of each day. And throughout, it will anticipate moments when you'll probably need stamina and supply you with some environmental means of doing that, as subtle as just a puddle of cave water, which I can't imagine Adam should be drinking. I do not think a handful of batshit mining runoff and undiscovered protozoa is going to revitalize me the way I wish it would, because I love drinking it. One of the most memorable traits of the dev's previous game, The Black Mirror, at least for me, was the abundance of gruesome ways its protagonist could die, with usually no real indication that you were in peril. You could see a hole in the wall, say, what's this, some kind of hole? Only for a spring-loaded spear to skewer you. So it's odd that this game would take place in a pretty consistently dangerous location, where any number of things could leave you mangled at the bottom of a cliff, and yet it doesn't play into that at all. You can die, but it's depicted with a hard cut to a black screen, sparing you the grisly details. And he's gone, affecting nothing. The sun still beams down on green vegetation, teeming with ecosystems unbothered. The earth continues its rotation, and an uncaring god— oh, he's back! Even though my dark passenger was left wanting, I did have a considerable laughing fit during a sequence where you're led through a booby-trapped path and told to follow a guide's exact path in order to avoid the traps. And I didn't know to what extent I had control over this, so I just clicked in the direction of where he had gone, only for Adam to choose another direction entirely and die. But also, like, what happened? Like, how did I die? I know I walked into a trap, but I didn't really have time to absorb what kind before I'm back at the start of the screen. In place of these scenes are a number of interesting new challenges to spice up the rather straightforward adventuring, including a sequence in which Adam relives the car accident in the game's opening, and several potential fail states are put on timers. A wound on Adam's head and the injuries of others involved in the accident are slowly declining until you can puzzle your way to fixing them. We also get some mini-games while operating a defibrillator, and one that was just meant to stand in for Adam's fear. This is a visual representation of him regaining his composure. The mechanism that quells my anxiety looks nothing like this. However, it's closer to that tube of water where you can shoot the rings onto the dolphin. It is chaos until that last ring lands, and then a zen state that slowly fades away as each horrible day drags on. These were thankfully kept to a minimum, as they will likely be the only substantial roadblock you'll come across. Anything else that is silly in this game is not necessarily difficult, it's just a matter of clicking on the right thing the right amount of times. These operate on some alien logic that one could not appropriately catalog here. Couldn't be me. The games of future games, despite being named after the games of the future, often echo what has come before. Tale of a Hero also features a sequence where you're required to unblock a cave entrance by tying a rope around a boulder and praying for some divine act of gravity. I do find it endlessly amusing that so much of what is used to solve puzzles is either a rock or a stick, or some combination thereof, because when you really get down to it, isn't it all rocks and sticks? Sure, we can dress it up with fancy shapes and ergonomic handles, but it's just a world of rocks and sticks. At one point, Adam finds like a bent piece of metal and constructs a super stick. That's a complete game changer. The second he worked that out, I became a barbarian. Also, appropriately, it's only in dreams that Adam upgrades to a pipe, the stick of the future. I've got nothing but praise for the presentation of Next Life. I actually love that all the characters are comparatively rudimentary scans of real models, stapled to geometric shapes. Even with age, combined with their backstories and accents, they all feel like very specific real people. Each of them is expressive and distinct down to hand gestures and idle movements. Hans has a twitchy eye that he got when he was savaged by a dog, as he worded it. And it doesn't mean a whole lot, or play into some kind of emotional arc for him. It's just a small detail that makes up his quirky whole. There's a W before that word. Like you plucked a series of random average humans from a database and downloaded them. Environments usually have some bits of animation or motion to breathe life into them, even if it's just some birds flying by. There are plenty of moments where it breaks away from the island and shows us some more fun places, all with a similar amount of detail and care put into their decoration. I've lost count of adventure games that prominently feature a morgue, and I'll never get tired of that as a setting. In fact, when I die, you might as well take me to one, because that's where I want to be. In an interview with Czechia gaming magazine Play, and referencing a press conference that I don't have access to, the devs are asked about weathering and wear and tear that is meant to progressively appear on the main cast of characters. And they confirm that over the course of the in-game days, their appearance would show the passage of time in some way. This was not something I could immediately remember being true, so I reviewed my footage of the first day and compared it to the final day, and the results, I think there may be some slight dirtying of his jeans and maybe his vest gets more sun bleached, but then again I think the longer I stare at something, the more I disassociate and forget why I'm doing it. Actually, this is me editing myself back in following 2 more hours of staring at Adam, and I think certainly by the end he is noticeably filthy. I do like the photographic quality of each character and their outfits. There's a guy who inherited a technologically advanced vest, and the way they display that tastefully is to paste onto it what appears to be a photo of a car stereo CD player, you know, like with an old LCD screen. You can still make out the eject button and skip track arrows. I found that to be charming, but also, the first time through, I didn't even notice that. I just unquestioningly believed that this was a futuristic piece of wearable tech. Speaking of cars, kind of, I wonder if they actually got a payout for their inclusion of a 1-to-1 2004 GMC Envoy, or if that was just a shortcut to modeling a recognizable of-era vehicle that we can keep between us, nobody's gotta know. It's a quality model, and they don't squander it. They knew what they had there. That possibility kind of recontextualizes the timed train track sequence, because if you think about it, it is kind of just incorporating the versatility and myriad features of the car's interior into gameplay.
Locked. Just what I expected.
Yep, this baby comes with a state-of-the-art child lock system, ensuring your little ones make it to their destination in one piece, but no less messy, am I right? Parental guardian.
Piece of garbage?
That's right, 4 of the Envoy's 5 seats come equipped with shoulder and lap belts, so even if that train did hit you, you're staying inside this 2-ton steel box. Ah, I see you're enjoying our patented sure honk hand honking system. Guaranteed to honk at the... Fucking stupid. Spacious glove compartment, power windows, adjustable side mirror, spring-loaded sun visors, power leather seat. Adam walks remarkably slow to his clicked destinations, but thankfully there is the small mercy in the fact that you can double-click to get him to jog a little faster, and also double-clicking on exits will skip the animation of him walking from one end of the screen to another. However, an admirable, if disorienting choice the devs made was to change the camera angles on the island every day, thoughtfully assuming that since you spend so much time there, you'd get sick of the same collection of camera angles. So at the start of each day, everything is oriented slightly different, revealing different parts of the environment and giving us some much needed variety. The drawback is that I had a hard time developing a mental map of the island. Every time I memorized where each landmark was located, it's like the map would reset and I'd have to learn it all over again. I guess a positive outlook on this would be that it is a pretty accurate representation of my own inability to navigate the world around me, suddenly forgetting where my own fucking shack is. Voice acting is a bit amateurish for sure, but they are also doing the best they can with a script that is garbled by localization.
How was the water?
I was there just for a while, but I've seen something.
Tell me.
Under the white cliff, where the dry tree is.
What did you find?
It seems there's a cave.
And while the game is cast with first-time actors that did not go on to pursue acting, there are a couple anomalies within that were and continue to be established voice actors with a mile-long credit list. Not that there is any place attributing voice actor to specific characters, but just going by ear and comparing to other roles, I'm 95% sure that Michelle is voiced by Karen Strassman, who, I mean, is kind of in everything, so it's not that crazy a get as it should be. It's kind of like saying there was a microphone in the studio, like I just assumed.
You know, they shut your mouth with $1 million and still get something more.
Like, for example?
Well, they find something in your past, like that you did not pay your taxes.
Knuckles, can you hear me?
Rouge! It's about time. How's Sonic doing?
He's been better. They're getting ready to banish him into space.
You know, I haven't played this one, but like, what do these games even think they're about? Professionals aside, I couldn't even rightly say that the voice work is bad. Because, like, I guess technically it is, but it also contributes to the strangely realistic characterizations. It's more awkward and clumsy in a realistic sense than it is bad. It makes sense that these people would speak sort of inelegantly and without a firm grasp of English. After all, I forced them all to speak this way, which was pretty inconsiderate. There is rarely music in Next Life outside of brief cutscenes, but I never really found myself fixating on that, or spiraling into panic at the absence of a mysterious string section or ghostly children's choir. Because there is some immersive sound design on display, each area has a palette of well-produced ambience that does a surprisingly good job at elevating the game to feel like a real game. Again, I must return to the morgue and admire its room tone, leaky pipes, the whirring of mysterious gruesome machinery, and the angelic buzzing of overhead fluorescent lighting. On the beach, dialogue is appropriately often eaten over by the crashing of waves, whistling of sea winds, and squawking of gulls, reducing conversation to an awkward mumble. The sea! She is a noisy...
It was an accident. An unfortunate accident. Man, I don't lie. Really.
I believe you.
That's why I'd wager most scenes set right by the water in Lost are ADR to hell, because that audio must be fucking worthless. Oddly enough, back in that interview with Play, the devs are asked about music, and they say that their in-house composer, Zdienek would be returning to score the game. And on top of that, we are conducting negotiations on the purchase of the rights to selected things. As it turns out, at the moment I am not able to say, because these things are very well known and famous, and everything will depend, how else, on the financial requirements of the copyright owners. This seems to suggest that they had originally planned for a few needle drops with pre-existing tracks and ultimately couldn't afford them. And it's a small detail that is probably commonplace in game development at any scale, but given that there is so little about Next Life's development out there, it's neat hearing that there were ambitions and goals that didn't make it to the shelf. It got me wondering what track I'd pick for the smash cut to credits at the end. As Adam disappears beyond that horizon, the love of his life in his arms. In my next life. There is a dreamlike quality to these bizarre conversations scored only by the sound of island.wav. Mundane, what's new on the island, we're all stuck on exchanges, approach Bergmanian levels of surreal deadpan, exacerbated by the mildly amusing ability to initiate conversations with characters that are several yards away, so far out of earshot that both parties are effectively talking to themselves.
What are you producing?
A trap for birds. I am a hunter, you know?
The note came to me about what you would be putting in it.
Don't know yet, but the fish would be great.
Another trap then. And what would you be putting in it?
I'll think about that later. A smart man focuses on one thing at a time.
Next Life is maybe not a great game, maybe definitely not a great game, but there is an honest human goofiness to it that I found endearing. It's a goofiness that is untouched by esoteric corporate meddling, and is solely the result of a small team wanting to hoist modern storytelling conventions on the creaky bones of the adventure game, existing in a forgotten margin of indie-adjacent weirdo titles that may always be floating in that junk island. It's in those waters, and it's this type of game, literally one of the games, that I found inspiration to explore my own preferences, interests, and fascinations with the medium, enough to subject the ensuing opinions on others. As a younger gamer, I always found it wild that there were plenty of games coming out that were not mentioned in our magazines, or were absent from E3, or G4, or G5 for that matter. You had to kick over rocks and wrestle with compatibility settings. You had to make an effort. Setting aside its localization issues, Netflix Next Life does present a compelling premise. It's the kind that muffles the voice of reason in me, has me rubbing my hands together, ready to be disappointed. Or not. You never know. Along the way, there is an almost novel appreciation for mundane, normal characters, just downloaded guys, and that sounds bad on paper, and maybe in practice, but it adds to the singular and strange nature of it, like when a Tim Robinson bit incorporates a very strange, regular person that completely corrupts the reality of the scene.
He's about at his limit.
Eventually, they make a firm choice on what the story is about and how it can be resolved, and this is where its borrowed elements and their own interests collide. They wind up returning to elements they were comfortable with, that being of pulpy adventure stories. Funnily enough, getting to these more Indiana Jones adjacent ideas before Lost would push them further. This turn happens at a much quicker pace than the previous stuff, with your island buddies and the nightmares. Suddenly you're on a track to the end and it's flying. Other future games, like the Black Mirror, ride this line of imitative and experimental, and there is something hugely relatable about that. Sometimes you want to create something that recaptures a thing you felt once, only now it's yours. You know? I want to feel that again, but it has my name written on it. Gameplay is easy to goof on, but that's only because there are miscommunications that may or may not have been intentional. I am familiar with point-and-click adventure games, acclimated to them, so I found myself, yes, laughing at choices they made, or the confusing feedback of it all, but also forgiving much of that because I know it's a small team making a game that might just be too complicated or ambitious for them. But I mean, they did it. It's here. It's out there. It's on shelves, where it may have remained longer than they probably would have hoped for on increasingly smaller and lower shelves or bins. It's not my place to guess which receptacle it may have called home. I think all its stumbles factor into my appreciation for it every bit as much as the things I think they genuinely nailed. Played into my love for things that feel slightly askew or uncanny, and not deliberate in doing so. In it just being weird because it came out weird. It expressed a weirdness that can only come from trying really hard to look normal.
Oh, John, how will we ever make it back to the city? I've developed coconut sickness.
I don't care, Susan. I don't care if we're stuck shitting our brains out on this island forever.
Wow, what an abrupt but welcome conclusion.
Yeah, what do you think? What's your popcorn rating?
Well, no robots, or automatons, or devices of any kind, really, so...
Wow, so that's all it takes, huh?
Well, it wouldn't kill them to have some representation, you know.
In the 1950s?
They had gizmos.
I suppose you're right.
What are you doing?
I'm looking at the letterbox reviews to determine how I felt about that.
Normal.
God, these fucking ads are so annoying. It's full screen now. I can't even do anything anymore. And now I have tickets to see Five Nights at Freddy's 2!
That is messed up.
And now I'm writing a positive review for Five Nights at Freddy's 2! I haven't even seen it!
Did you see the first one?
I don't want to talk about that.
Normal.
No, not the fucking popcorn box! That is the end of the video. Thank you for watching it. If you liked it, consider engaging with it in some fashion. And if you really liked it, consider becoming a patron, where, for as little as $1 American, you will be granted access to several hours of extra content, mostly about ghosts. Oh, and on the off chance that you'd like to hear me talk defensively about Lost further, one of my paywalled by as little as $1 American videos is a retrospective of David Lynch's filmography, and I have a bigger than you'd think portion devoted to discussing Lost's purpose as an attempt to rebottle the lightning of Twin Peaks. What else? I have an official merch store at gothgamernation.com. At the moment, both of the two things I was selling are pretty much sold out. But you misunderstand. This is not because there was such high demand for both of these items. It's because the shirts I designed, had locally screen printed and put up, were so expensive for me that I have to do them in pretty small batches. So if I'm putting shirts up there, it's like maybe 50 or so at a time. It turns out, if you want like a nice shirt, you know, that's not like sandpaper bullshit Gildan, it's kind of expensive to do. And I have so far not made a lot of money off of them. But you know what? I'm breaking even, and there's shirts with the channel's name and a rat in circulation, and that is its own reward. So as of my writing, there's probably not much on there, but you can go there and sign up to receive an email when there is things on there. And this is, you know, pretty much just through me. So I think I was saying that to be both a reassurance and a warning. Reassure you that I'm not like a faceless corporation and, you know, trying to sell you garbage, but also warn you that I'm just one gamer. This is the best I can do. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. And an extra special thanks to Ailing Uncle, 2 Password for Kids, a large biotic gerbil, a normal scarecrow, Again Dean, Agden Again Dean, Dean Dig in a Dangadig, Inegden, Adganadina, Ganadine, Alexander Smith, Andre Perkins, Aparts 89, Audio Video, Baird Brown, Beef Lightning, Ben Oliver, Bionicle Enjoyer, Bobble the Gobble, Brad Harrer, Caroline Greer, Chi Doodle, Cormac, D-Sky, Dan Halloran, Daniel Lucas, Dante de Glanville, Daphne Pittendry, Dark Raptor 86, Dead Tired Dad, Deluminati, Der Capitan, The Real Michael King, Dirt Person, Dirty Nays once fought a Japanese mountain monkey and lost, Dr. Beard, Dongs.exe, Dwellin' with Darhraku, Edgy, El Jaguar, Feathered Octopus, Fubi the Kamikaze Watermelon, Frodo Ballbag, Garbage Day, Naigo, Grimebear, Grok, Gunmancer, High Food Court, I Am Rich Evans's Shrill Witch Cackle, Iddig, Ludex Alexander, James Nicholson, Jared Bynum, Jay Alameen, John Dreffs, Jojo Cat, John Boring, Just a Ghost, Justin Harper, Carrot, King Rathew, Conrad Johnson, Mango, Mixwell, Michael Schmidt, Nick Ballinger, Pandemic Cowboy, Pazuzu, Puke Skywalker, formerly 410,757,864,530 gay cops, Roland, Psycho Gekido, Salvatore Tosti, Samuel Vanderplatz, Snapplefish, Some Kind of Phonetic Spelling, Stuart McIntyre, That Iru Guy Loves You, That Uninformed Guy, The Bloke, Two-Stan, UTMK4, Worm, Zach Bishop, ZS Quinn. After much consideration and some credit card fraud, I've decided Piss Missile is a bit crass, come cannons where it's at yo. Kallio, Delilah Lindonk, Etto, Avaner, From Dear Diary to Owie My Wrist, What an Arc, Love You. Giraffa, I continue to support Grim while the world crumbles around me. Jay, Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, Jeremy Silver, J Hamilton TX, Johnny Sachs, June Choi, Jaya Temkoa, Rolls for Initiative, Catherine Graven, Lore, Mr. Alpacleton, Oh Hi Grim, Pants O'Hara, Smokey Jefferson, Stumpovich, Swood Operator, T-Dog, 8083, Tuggy, A Hanging Chad, Aaron Kwolek, Aaron Isaias, Binary Vision, Brady the Sanity Tax Collector, Chimichanga Jones, Kodamite, Daniel Moen Larson, Dano the Mano, David Offord, DeForzi, Dicene, Doom Spiral Daydreams, Dreadlord Alex, Fiona Summers, Fix My Brain, Gareth Farrow, Grounded Valkyrie, Hales. Have a wonderful day. Here's to rats. James Snipes, Jason Chandler, Jetson Jempel Nawang Lapsang Yeshe Tenzin Gatso, J-Man DX, Lugubrious Moron, Mad Monty 98, Mango, Mod Sword, Name Requires DLC, Neb, Ophelia Fishwife, Orphan Smith, P. Dizzle, Persian Air, Pickblick, Resident Aikman, Robert Brandon, Rowdy Roddy Peeper, Ruibi Somem, Samejima, Scrumptious Scummy, Scandy Trash, Sugarboo, Take My Money and I'll come up with something funny later. Technica, 10-Beat, Test Case. Well, I know of an experiment that's looking for a good one of those. The Angry Pebble, Tebow, Tuski, Vilmar Valthorson, What's in a Name? 12 trans rats in a trench coat, 77 Elvis the King, a big gay rat, a small red dog, a squatting necromancer hanging at the local crypt, a shireling, Alan Wake Me Up Inside, Alistair Stewart, Alistair Grout, All Beer, No Breaks, Andrew Light, Andrew Lebrano, Andy P, Anthony, Auntie, Astro Shepherd, Audrey's Last Dance, Auspicious Whiskers, Austrian Hound, Balton, Ben and Cara Dowling, Ben Mahler, Benjamin Judah Phelps, Benjamin Payne, Bibby F. Blocksberg, Big Honk, Bishy 93, Biddles 99999999999999999, Bivdub, Black Robed Mage, Blake, Bob Dole, Bogdan Atanasoy, Bog Witch Bunny, Bongiver, like Boniver but with a bong, Bostradamus, Brandon Frost, Brandon Winkleman, Breeze McMothman, Brick, Brown Pants Gaming, Burps Wimbledon, Butter My Biscuits and Rotisserie the Rich, Caleb Zane Kelly, Cameron Doherty, Cameron Spoon, Cassandra M, Case, Cerberus Arms, Cerebral Policy, Chernobyl Kinsman, Chicago's Famous Rat Hole, Chris Miner, Crisps 989, Christopher Lawrence, Classed, Clean Walking Rat, Cliff Racers, Colby, Cole Bramlett, Holm Casserly, Count Zero Interrupt, Captain Jax, Crispy J, Pumpkin Spice, Cyborg Number Blue, Damian H, Damn Good Coffee, and Hot, Dan N, Dang Jenna, Daphne, Dark Zeramar, Darth Couch, David Fromke, Dazed Clockwork, Deadbleed, Deadpan Drew, Denny J.A., Destriga, Devin McCullough, Divana Uprock, Disco Pickle, Do the Manta Ray, Dr. Futurity, Dog Vomit Slime Mold, Dom, yes that Dom, wait, no not that one, the other Dom, Doogsy Mag, Dylan Berry, Dismitriou, Eat Play Hate, Eben Hollub, Eben Sullivan, Eels, EO, Eric Clapton, Eudiptes, every day, once a day, give yourself a putty. Faith in Feeling, Fangro, Fart Mother, Fat Boy Tubbs, Ferrican, 15 moderately sized high-definition rats listening to Breakcore, Filth Pig, Fox the Fuchs, FPFX, Fragile Traveler, Frank Orifice, Fried Potato, Frolics with Bunnies, Fuzzy Tingle Times, Gamblor, Game is Good, General Clizara, Gloomerous, Gloria Gordon, Goaty Galaxy, Goblin Princette, Grenth, Grim, Embrace Me Softly, Please, Gurneel, Gwenever, Haley Bobella, Have a Look Outside, It's Beautiful, Hey Would You Blow Me, Hentai McToon Boob, Hibernia Scholar, High-Res Titan, Hime Rowan, Hitoshi-san, Horror Show 93, HRLK, Rothdell, Hug, Hugh O'Brien, Hunterlit, Hyborian Age Space Marine, Hyde King, I Fart on My Hands, Ideasty, Ilya Idamkin, INTJ loves her INTP, Irish Wristwatch, Irradiated Otter, Jacob O'Callahan, Jacob Simmon, Jacob, Hazel, Kurt, Ian, wake up! Jake Raynor, Jamal Cooks, Jeff Ladd, Jeremy Langell, Jim Flandango, Joe Gothur, Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo, John Final Fantasy XIV, John Tomorrow, Joseph Cap, Jewel of Housecat, Just Give Me a Name, Justin Darnell, Katukin, Captain Ketchup, Cargera, Karen Rosnow, Carpad, Kieran Walker, Kelly O'Neill, Kevin Handley, Key Lime Pie, Kid Charlemagne, the FCC Can't Catch Me, Kind Raccoon, Kingyo Ningyo, Kozoku, Chris Audi, Crusteasy, Kyle Ragsdale, Lee, Leland Miliokis, Leopold Gloom, Lone Gunman, Luke Reynolds, Lurking Presence, Lydecker, M, Magic Meows, Mainly May, Mamudu Ikaro, Mandalore Gaming, Mango Roxas, Marquois, Mason Trap, Maxine Zeds, Micah J. Best, Michael Anderson, Michael Cantor, Michael Yates, Mind Goblin, D's, Cosplayer at SawCon, Nuts, Monster Train, More Sharks, Mortis on Fire, Mother Destruction, Mr. Ducky Quack, Mr. Mighty McMonkey, Mystical Lint, No Stars, Neck Out the Brave, Nex42, Nick Timmons, no, just skip this one, Noel C137, Noise Tank 01, Not Klitzpixum, Mixisplic, November Ocean, Noel Rom, Nyan Nyan Nyan, Ganbarimasu Anime Girls, Daisuki desu, Opichi Kostra, Parapug's #1 fan, Parapug Fan Club member, Pathetically Hopeful, Paul Fierce, Petrashek, Philip Coffee, Picture, Princess Tiny Feet's Corn Niblets, Prophet, Radia, Ratula Jones, pronounced like a rat Dracula, Red Chowder, Replicant, Richter Strauss, Ridley, Robo Narples, Ronock the Axe, Rose, Rusty Spork, Ruth Strange, Sam, Sarah is in her Bloodman era, Sathington, Savvy Fave, Scofflaw, Sebastian, Shaddanon, Shade, She Needs You More Than She Loves You, Shrimp Lord, Shrimpy Nobashi, Sybil Arnett, Silatixo, Slugs and Cats, Snitz Boy, Solar, Spooky Schaefer, Spoopy Ghost, Startide, Stay Soft, Suzuya Rose, Zlamka Benz, Tarolati, Team R, T Stony. What is this profile pic? Can I blow that up? Oh my god. Is that Pamela Anderson? Teeny Dragator, That One Skaven Under Your Bed, The Clay Pigeon, The Jacket Inventory from Alone in the Dark 2008, thank you for gracing us with your presence once again. The lovely Dr. Dick Punch, The Pigeon Hiding in Your Walls, The Plath, The Sea Peoples, The Hairiest Hair, The Ninja Warrior, The Supervisor, Thick For Mom, Tired, Toaster Child, Tom, Tori, Trenton Wilkins, Trevelyan, Troy Webb, Tutint Mean Age Needle Teedle, Tyler Collins, Umberkin, Unknown Fuction, Val. You know what you have to do. Vince Van Diesel, Vincent Cronin, Woden Odwendauer, Stebjezinia, Kushonst, Brzmivstinia, Astebjechin, Stagaswinia, Jechshonst, Brzmivstinia. Wait, so I can just get Grim to say whatever I want here? That's a powerful ability I would certainly never abuse. How long can Where am I? Help. Wintermute. Ya boy Raz, aka Booty, aka Mr. BB Cheeks. You fool, you've damned us all. Ya boy Mike. Zanga PF, Zen, Zombo Rombo, Zangingu, Zoop de Whoop, Zuli the Little Blue Kobold, and Put a Little Dirt Under My Pillow for the Dirt Man for being a patron. And thank you to the rest. Gamers, you have no fucking idea how much it means to me that you're here supporting me. That I can go on living each day pretending like I am employed, to pretending like there's a net behind me. Anyway, this was meant to be like a 30 to 40 minute video, but as it turns out, I think I just don't have that in me anymore. Or I don't know, this was just too much to work with, you know? I appreciate you watching it, and stay tuned. I can finally wholly invest time in the poll winner from a month or two ago. So the next game review will be 2003's Siren, as per our contractual agreement. Though before that, and hopefully in a matter of days, I will have the AMA video up featuring questions I sourced from the Discord. And what else? There may be something in between there, but for sure, Siren looming over the horizon. You can hear it, it's coming. In the course of researching this video, I stumbled upon a bit of knowledge that was forbidden for those from the US, I guess. I'm sure some publication covered it, but I had no idea that a prequel to The Black Mirror was in development and successfully not kickstarted, but, well, technically kickstarted, just not on Kickstarter. Crowdfunded, and according to the campaign, because some former members of Future Games are involved in it, it is to be like the only canonical new game, because other studios did Black Mirror 2 and 3 and the remake. I had a lot of trouble tracking down just who these Future Games figures are, and I think for sure the composer is there, but I don't know. I mean, it's a small team. I don't know if the composer was like, he actually had a larger hand in other things, and that's enough to say that, or if there are other guys, but you know, it's one of those like incredibly niche things that for me was like a revelation seeing that was happening, but like, who the fuck am I gonna tell? Well, you, I guess. And that's all. Hey, you know what? I'm just glad you're here. And I won't take up any more of your time. I will get the fuck out of here. See you later.
The fuel tank is ruptured. I need you to stop the leak before the whole thing explodes. You understand? Now go! Yes, I told you. You need to stop that fuel leak before the whole plane goes...